Welcome back, everybody, to the fourth episode of the Mark DellaPenna Show. Coming to you live from the Mark DellaPenna set at the office at my startup creative media agency, Digital Business Traffic. And in this episode, my friends, we are going to go over the third element of the show. And the premise of the show is life, business, and everything in between. So for this episode, I will discuss everything in between. In my last three episodes, we did intro, life, business, and here we go. Let's get into it with everything in between. So, per usual, just like every episode, these are my show notes. Check this. Okay. Creator economy. Let me go into everything in between. So this is where, as I discussed in prior episodes about being steadily fast on my path to growing online and my pursuit of branding and helping entrepreneurs and creative minds on their own journeys, and at the same time evading some of the technological time traps that consume our everyday time that could be focused more on our business. So social media, or just putting things off that we know should be done for our business that ends up creating stress. So I have been particularly careful, as I have shared in prior episodes, with some of the stuff that has happened over the course of 6 years online and creating a business for myself. I am surgeon-like with inserting certain types of information. And this is also what I do for clients, especially as you get deeper and more visible online. You really want to make sure that everything that you're putting out there is going to help and not potentially hurt you. Although things do happen, you can't go into it with your hands up, right? This is a game you have to play on offense, especially for your business. So an element of this episode will include some of the diverse creative ways that I've implemented psychology in my own social media for your businesses and your brands on social medias. All right, well, let's see. We dove into my life where I am 35 years old. My name is Mark Anthony DellaPenna Jr. I am blonde hair and blue-eyed. I'm 5'9", about 185 pounds. I played basketball growing up. I hurt myself. I went for fire protection and safety and restaurant management. I got hurt, so I couldn't pursue fire protection. And I got really tired of growing into the restaurant management industry, and I stared at my phone and wound it up online with a creative online business. It was the business element of my podcast so far where I created a startup, Digital Business Traffic. You are more than welcome to check it out at digitalbusinesstraffic.com, where we help creative brands build online businesses and optimize social media with meta tags and videos and written content and blogs. And then in this episode, as it's the in-between of the two of the prior episodes, here we go. Let's get a little deeper into the psyche of your podcast host. I am incredibly excited about sharing this mysterious, surgeon-like, informational episode where I have to kind of bob and weave about some of the things that I'm putting out as I go. Okay, well, in between these two things of life and business come your podcast host. So I work in Salem, Massachusetts, as I have shared before, and I work globally online with small businesses and entrepreneurs making creative videos and content, and I'm putting my own content out there more and more and getting into that rhythm and sweat of more visibility, more problems, reaching for success, and creating content that can reach and grow a community of like-minded people without kind of boring them to death or giving them something that maybe they don't see all the time in the best way that I can, and something that is truly empowering experience for me has been entering into video podcasting for sure. And in between these elements, as I have shared in prior episodes, is a very time consuming part of my life, right? Is when we start businesses for ourselves, as I've also talked about, it's a giant burden. But on the optical end, especially for our viewers, our subscribers, and of course my listeners, we want them to take something away from themselves, enjoy it, be entertained or distracted in a way that they come back, right? So we talk about the swing of that and the perceptions and optics, and ultimately the best course of action, especially with an online business, is usually to make things easier for ourselves. And sometimes people don't truly understand the power in that. And I was someone who didn't truly understand the power in that, or the capability of how strong it was to put my foot down and just say, hey, you know what? I've been working hard. I deserve it. What else can I do for my business today? And just chip away at it more and more. And I talked about a lot of the personal struggles through the development stages of my business in prior content and on my personal YouTube series that tells a personal view of this story here. So you're also more than welcome to check that out on my YouTube at Mark DellaPenna Jr. And it's just a visual interpretation of exactly what I've shared up to this point. So the in between of this, aside from my time, is my focus, my energy, and a giant part of my digital dedication. I think when you put your name on something and your face on something in a digital way, aside from the grind out or the mission or the long-term objective of potentially building an audience or starting a channel for yourself, you really have to think about sharing your energy, your space, your time, and with who and more carefully, aside from all the work in between. And that's definitely in everything in between for this episode for me, is navigating that, as I've shared before, in a healthy, sane rhythm where I want to keep it up. I have to continue to produce content that I feel can bring a value and support my life in a consistent way, and I'm sharing the experience here with my podcast. The other in betweens of that are micromanaging what I think I would like versus what my audience would probably need, and figuring out or accepting, I guess, that that's okay, but finding different avenues online where I can kind of hook it and sync it creatively and in an understandable way for people to follow and get along, especially with these things that I have planned for my startup in our community. And not to sidetrack, let me dive into some of the heartfelt areas of my life in between. My family. So I have a sister named Valerie, who I love, who has two children that are my nephews, Michael and Mark, with her husband, Michael. And my father's brother, Michael, is my uncle. And my father passed away before I was born, whose name was Mark. And my grandmother passed away a few years ago. Her name was Jacqueline. And my family really just couldn't break the rhythm and habit of Marks and Michaels. So a lot of us are Mark and Michael in my family. We grew up in an Italian neighborhood. We moved to Revere, Massachusetts in my adolescent years in a big family home. And then I ended up moving out. And that's about it for my immediate family without oversharing anything too unnecessarily. But we were raised, or we all were raised in the same house, and we were a very close-knit family that looked out for each other and did what we could for each other all the time. It was really empowering. As I've shared before, they are my adoptive family. Essentially, they're my immediate family's one generation elder. When my father passed away, my grandmother adopted me. So my father's mother took me into her home. So my uncle and my aunt became my brother and sister. And through the generation and aging of like the process of my sister getting older and having children of her own, and then I'm babysitting her kids, like I shared in my last episode, which brought me to the digital world when we started Marvel Universe on Xbox. It all kind of wrapped in together that the brand I created would essentially be a micro for entities that people, that picked up a phone in a dream and pushed it or are still doing so. And I'm always actively building, so I usually relate a lot to people that are actively building things for themselves as well, even if they're not where they want it to be at that purpose, that mission. I think it opens up your eyes to having a lot more respect for other people that are doing similar things to themselves, and it's a tough grind. So kudos for the listeners out there that may also be on their own video podcast journeys or starting a business or a brand for yourself. That no matter what stage of your path, I'm sure it's all relatable to some degree with the ups and downs and the trials and tribulations. And when I thought back on like my family and I was building a brand, that really tied into the episode's theme of everything in between, as well as ultimately what kind of digital asset or product would I like to, or audience would I like to cultivate long term around my interests and who I am as a person and these digital impressions and videos and audios that I'm creating of myself. So family was always a really key thing that I kept in mind, especially having no mother or father of my own. And like I shared in my last episode, that was ultimately like a type of brand or an atmosphere, or community vibe that I would like my listeners or readers to be able to take away from that and go into the community of the world a little stronger than they did before because of it. And a lot of what I did with shaping that was being able to provide resources or avenues, and even if it was like a Discord or weekly event, something that people could be able to network and meet and just kind of get a glimpse or an opportunity or an interactive something that maybe they never got to experience or never got an opportunity to check out or learn more about. So there was the navigation of that, and it was as I've shared prior, it was definitely a rumble having jumped out of the 9 to 5 as a restaurant manager and getting into the content world and figuring out that now I'm going to be relying on all these devices, so I better learn them, and I better learn them as quickly as I can to sustain income streams that could support the kind of life that I wanted for myself when I left. And outside of that, on a more fun topic, what I like to do for fun is I like to stay active, so I do go to the gym. Excuse me, I'm a little stuffy. I do go to the gym, so I like to do that for exercise and to stay healthy, and I find that it really helps with the rest of it throughout my day. If I start my day with something sweaty, I don't always get to do it, and I make excuses sometimes when I probably could as to why I'm not, but ultimately the gym is an incredible tool for any entrepreneur or content creator out there. Get you out, and you can even do content at the gym. Staying active and healthy is always really important to me, and just keeping a clear mind. I like to walk a lot, run, jog. Sometimes I play basketball, not as often as I used to. I am still a little bit of a nerd at heart, and although I'm in business and niching and helping entrepreneurs succeed, I am incredibly, sorry, I'm just fixing this camera. I am incredibly guilty of occasionally dabbling back into the gaming world, which I have secretly been researching some monetary abilities with in this season that I called Revenge of the Creators. I've shared in the last episode where I started in the Xbox gaming world as a micro gaming influencer, I guess you could call it, the visible community of hundreds and hundreds of Marvel fans. I was unable to monetize this venture or energy driven consulate due to the fact it was Marvel. So I did some research and I was like, you know what? Maybe one day, as the community grows and grows, or my audience finds interest and checks out things on the website, or I network and meet more people, maybe I'd be able to bring some sort of like entertainment driven sector of that onto my website platform for my creative agency. It kind of could connect, I guess, with some of the stuff that I'm pursuing now with it, with NFTs and rarities and collectibles and twisting digital things and assets into social content. So that is definitely really exciting for me to be able to take real life interests in things that are fun, implement them into my business, and then be able to kind of explore radiating like fun and business and social video content on some of the smaller platforms, and like a video action semi movie like production on YouTube that you're more than welcome to check out. I'm going to start it. The second series starts off with World of the Infinite, and I kind of just take the audience through a navigated physical, visual perspective of the different sectors of the creator economy and internet marketing and different arenas and how the world is so different. And I'm going to try to use some budgeting, action packed movie like interactive abilities to make it really visually appealing, upgrade the channel, get people interested in it, and show them some really cool stuff at the same time in such an entertaining way, I guess, is the goal, that it doesn't feel like they're learning anything. And I know growing up, that was one of my favorite elements of going to school or actually learning something that I was really interested in, was when the teacher had the uncanny ability to look outside themselves and let the student learn it themselves without really guiding them there and just kind of pointing them there. So I thought it would be interesting to try to incorporate that in a video series that would, build trust, authority, and show my story blended into my business in a way that was really entertaining, more for like a YouTube channel and not like a boardroom meeting or a salesy pitch. So that kind of narrative, I guess, with my story and everything that I've shared in prior episodes and this episode, with everything in between, is it's really cool because I feel like I have not only the microphone in my hand as your podcast host now that I didn't prior, but just a little more exercise in my ability to navigate or steer the ship that ultimately makes me happy and suits my wants and needs, a little more flexible without so much pressure from the early adjustings to what I consider the first half of the beginning, all those personal doubts, those fears, those stresses, those social media comparisons, those how do I get into social media, the editing process and all that. But to navigate it back to fun, I thought that would be really cool to incorporate more with my animated logo character and into some interactive, cool, visual appealing abilities that other people out there or that are following me or potentially that I run into or reach would find interesting and be able to set up and, potentially make it like a regular thing. So I'll elaborate, which I'm very excited about in the topic of fun. Digital Business Traffic is hosting 3 unique community events. You're more than welcome to check that out on our community hub page on the website. But they are variants or creative concepts that I thought would be interesting, fun, and exciting enough to keep people interested and fans excited or followers and viewers entertained with uh, a few ideas. So, one of the ideas was the Digital Business Traffic NFT community. And it was simply a large Facebook page with many, many users, about 82 to 83,000 users at the moment, of rarities and digital collectibles that essentially just post what they're doing for themselves on that sector of the internet. So I simply just moderate it, I keep it clean, and now I'm promoting it more as a sector of digital business traffic, putting my face out there and kind of growing a trustable presence in a sector that was always interesting to me on the internet, like the Web3 community and the NFT community that I didn't know much about, that definitely got rocked in the trust department over the course of the last year to a few months with some of the stuff that has happened in that sector. So with my animated logo being somewhat NFT character like, I thought it would be not only a great mix, it stayed true to like the core brand, it matched um, my obsessive compulsions to make my brand match and stay true and authentic, and try to figure out how to do that as a solo operator. I think is easier on me as a creator to combine myself with that animated logo and find ways that other people can find fun in. So we're doing that where it's just a simple private Facebook group that people can join and check out some other people's wearables. As I get into my own kind of stray off camera of how do I figure out how to implement that into my logo with some gear and rarities. That's kind of that half of it. That's how I entertain from the front to the back. And then another fun activity that we're doing is called the walking tech. So the walking tech is an idea that I shared, and these are actually all ideas that I shared in the first half of my YouTube series that I did a few years ago. And I was able to just kind of slowly pick out some of the many concepts and keynotes and points that I hit on and repeat them or recycle them in the smaller apps to build a community and a social presence, and then get on video podcasting like I'm doing now with the full outfit after I shared my story, and just tried to really intertwine and twist this thing called the digital world into something that meant something to me, so that it also motivated me and people that are watching could kind of resonate and be more interested in it. I think long term it'll just be easier for me, especially with the, as I've shared, I have a really creative mind. Like I could see myself doing like a shelf and just putting some of the things that I've mentioned in the videos or in prior content like on the shelf to be even more recognized and make inside jokes and stuff like that with my community through Discord and fun things. And the third idea that I had was a more bigger produced kind of movie quality video for my YouTube series where it incorporates a mesh mix imaginative take of like The Walking Dead, except in modern time with me and other people as creators in a world of like scrollers and spam bots, and try to mix animation with like, instead of zombies they would be scrollers, and try to drive key points and make it humorous enough to be educational throughout it. So that was one of the videos that I would like in the second part of the first half of my YouTube channel. Um, so I'm really excited about intertwining some of the real things that mean things to me. And again, like I really liked comics and recording and video editing. So being able to just take some of these elements and mix them into my business in a real way is awesome. And these video podcasts are helping more and more, just being able to put these messages out there and build an authentic community. It's amazing, and I'm really grateful for it. So that's a lot to do with the fun department, and I've just been getting more and more excited about it, to be honest. I really do. I get a little more into it. I get some ideas. Can't can't share all my secrets for my community and audience, but looks more up and up the way you look at things. You know, your perspective can change in an instant. And I'm a firm believer, as I've shared, in the power of positivity and the energy and the things you put out into the world. So hopefully people out there can take some keynotes from this and implement them into their brands or get involved with ours. And some of the other things that are in between this mix mesh, as I've shared, of life and business and branding and getting more and more visible and social, of course, is learning to stay grounded in my faith, in myself, and I guess in the business side of things. And the more I learn about like branding and building like a long-term sustainable uh, avenue for potentially like, you know, things that could help me forever, would in branding, in the terms of branding, I guess, is communicating that message in a more consistent way, that's helpful, valuable, and easier to understand through all the chaotic static noise as the operator in the middle of the digital arena, as I like to call it. So it's really interesting doing it and just being a part of it and giving my audience this kind of perspective with these videos, especially these first four, where it kind of totals the tale of my beginning and my journey, and hopefully people feel a little catched up, like they're on this mission with me in within my show or within my episode. I hope that can bring people some sort of empowerment, or at least takeaway. Aside from like the tutorials and the walkthroughs, I really like stretching my feet out and being able to do these different kind of formatted things. I got to do so many things that really aren't too valuable or entertaining and short, that might not even be worth repeating, but just cool opportunities that I got to do myself throughout the journey. Like I did some street casts on Halloween around the Salem area where the office is, to kind of like just make people feel good around the area. We walked around another Halloween and we gave gifts. We did shout outs on a megaphone, and we were given gifts for free out of like a bag and handing out information to our business. I got to go to press releases. I got to have help with like a press release of my own, and just kind of experience that and seeing like the true nature that I'm interested so much of, just the savage internet world of how media is consumed and distributed, and how far it goes and how long it lasts, and really what it can do for you, to you, and potentially what it can bring or provide to other people, and you kind of take them in that world with you, and the sky's the limit. And some of the other in between of that has the insertion that I talked about at the beginning of the episode with the psychology and everything, is when I picked out my outfit. Now I just kind of do merch drops, and I try to stay as recognizable in my social content, especially my videos, as possible, and change up the season's clothing or the new merch drops collection after collection, depending on like the season or potentially mood or incident. So it's really fun kind of learning how to go into the internet a little more, not aggressively, but psychologically equipped, where I can kind of throw the ball, and I'm kind of playing the game that I wanted to play. I'm in the four corners, with my toes down, kind of the way that I wish I did at the beginning, and that's just retrospect. That's just, hopefully entrepreneurs out there find value in kind of what I'm saying. You just kind of stay planted and move at the same time. Some of the other stuff that is in between would be places I've gone, or some places that I've been thinking of going. In my life, I've definitely gotten to travel quite a bit, not extravagantly, but I've gone to go to a lot of places. I've been to Rome, Italy for a few times. I got to travel around Italy and stay there for about 2 weeks. And I got to go to Canada a handful of times, Toronto and Woodbridge, and I've been to Quebec and Montreal. I've gone to Florida a lot. I really enjoy going to Florida for some reason, and the warmer weather down there, and just the party atmosphere and some of the stuff that they have to offer. Tourism sector is somewhat interesting. It's rather fun going out around there. And I've gone to New York and Catskill, New York, and New Jersey, and a lot of places on the East Coast, Connecticut, New Hampshire. But I started, I started getting more and more into entrepreneurship, without cycling in this episode into a different path, I guess. I've shared like some of the true brutal, raw, uncut hardships of entrepreneurship, losing people, the loneliness factor, the need for attention, but the uncertainty of how to go about it, and telling yourself you deserve it, some of the imposter syndrome or the camera shyness or limiting belief systems or doubts along the way, or people implanting things along the journey of the square content trail that we leave behind on our paths from day one till forward, which is interesting. Um, on that path, as I shared in my last episode, which was really personal for me, and I kind of found it happening in my life with not feeling great in the 9 to 5 and stopping myself from feeling that way and pulling myself out of that situation, which I think would make a lot of people happier in general if they did this more often. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But I think a lot of the times, the thing that really makes people happier is the ability to have an option to navigate or just to explore a different side of themselves or a different piece or part of their life that maybe they don't have like the control of their surroundings, which is really important to me and something that I progressively promote to other creators and entrepreneurs, especially as a content creator. It's just rather peaceful. I don't like working by myself for sure. Of course, I wish I had a team. Outside of hiring occasional freelancers, there was like one period in time where I did like a semi-serious hiring, and it wasn't for like a long-term salary position. As a startup, I really couldn't offer them that. But I didn't end up keeping the relationship was there. I just didn't keep the position available because it was almost creating more work for me, and I was totally inexperienced with having someone that was there to even help me. That became a shuffle. So the whole business process really took a toll, and wrapping that into where I was moving forward as a content creator now, I just kind of get an outside macro view or an ability to do some of the smaller things, and I play on it to help people really, and it's just a part of my brand now with like starting with like a piece of paper broke kind of thing. So now I just show people like cheap, effective, practical ways that they can use social media content to drive in sales, which is nothing to sneeze at for sure. Social media is a very powerful thing. And I know advertising is expensive, cost to customer per acquisition, and all that. So the personal branding and content in general is incredibly helpful for me, but it opens me up after too. Like I've shared, each episode, my heart gets a little, heavier with the stuff that I'm doing and the volume of opinion and magnitude of lives that I am impacting one way or another with listens and downloads. So it's steady, and you feel it at every upload and edit, and that definitely counteracts the toll that it plays on, right? And that's something that I really want to be able to bring to the table, especially coming from like the creative business sector. Is it is difficult, but we have to really make it fun, enjoyable, or make people feel good on the other end of that device or email or podcast or book, whatever it might be for yourself, sweatshirt, hat. I've tried to really navigate the entire journey and story through documentation, but building relationships with each piece, even if it wasn't successful. I think the act of or the attempt it draws, it's kind of like what I shared in my last video so openly is, and it's nothing to sneeze at now. Like, it's funny the way times change and perspectives change, attitude change, and life changes. But like I shared in my last episode, I wasn't feeling my greatest when I was injured at home setting up an Xbox, which would later give me a giant business idea that I'm sitting inside of years later. But the point is the the power of the digital content cycle is more powerful than the creator knows themselves. Like, I didn't know what kind of world I was getting in, and now it's enveloped into this stretcher, like a giant point A to a giant point B. And that similarity isn't so far different than other creators, for sure. There's a giant power of the internet that's just forever fascinating to me. And content, and how powerful it is. Content is king. It lasts forever. It works while we're sleeping. So depending on what we're putting into these devices, um, you know, we can bring these elements of our lives, our families, our everything in betweens, our fun moments, the creative things from our childhood that we made businesses with or went on to assemble some sort of uh, structured way of helping more people do the exact same thing or get to experience something similar. I think is just the greatest perk of being a content creator, because when you start doing more and more for yourself, and this ties back into where I was looping or trying to do my best as your podcast host to loop the episode, where the hardships and the loneliness, I really started to like break free and go do more things for myself without anyone present a lot. And at first I was really unhappy and kind of like, all right, I gotta go do this. But then I was like, wow, and then I get to do this. Oh, and then I'll get to do that. So I started like amping myself up over, but it's hard by yourself, of course. But the point that I was making is the more I broke out and started doing more and more for myself in one aspect of my life or in one area of like my content, I started kind of looking at other areas of my life and doing more of that same action and getting the same kind of reaction or the same kind of outcome in a different area. And it's really mental, and it was really like, I'm sure we've all had a moment in our minds sometimes are like, wow, like our minds are more powerful than we remember or think it is. Maybe I could go on and go into some cool stories. Like, just, you know, I really don't believe in too many coincidences. Maybe once in a blue moon kind of thing. But when I was younger, I remember raising my hand in class, and the teacher asked me a question, and he said, like, I'll give you $5 if you get this random question right. And it was something so bizarre. It was almost like he had a hard time remembering it, but it had something to do with the way, what shape the gardener cut his front lawn, like a bush he had. What is it? And I think it was like I said, dolphin. He's like, how'd you know that? Just like freaky things, or you look at faces and you don't remember how you know them, but you end up being connected them in some sort of like what do they call it? 6 degrees of separation, where it is said, believed that everyone at one point in time is no further or more than 6 social connections away from any one of us at one single point in time. And there's been philosophical, technological assortments with this statement, and it really boils down into making the world a smaller place with technology, which is somewhat similar to the kind of concept of my story and my brand and kind of what I'm doing now, right? Is we're sort of able to connect just for a brief period and moment's time that is captured through otherwise man-made, you know, battery-driven devices on a day that maybe I wasn't here or supposed to be in this place or at that time, uploaded it into a physical entity which transmissions its broadcasting powers into the listener's ears through microphones and uploads. It's just amazing the technology that we have these days, because even a lot of what I do professionally is back to elementary school. Even when we learn, a lot of the content that you create on social media you should always assume no one knows who you are, no one knows where you work, no one knows what you're offering, and repeat it as much as you can in a smooth way that's digestible with value and sneakiness, branding and posters on the back with your words on it. But a lot of it is understanding that it should be understandable by a third grader. So a lot of the skills are secondary. They're secondary skills. They're soft skills. Nothing to play with for sure, because they're all incredibly not only physically valuable, but going into the future, I don't think that AI and all these amazing sources of information that we're seeing with the artificial intelligence open source world is really going to take jobs, but it will replace people for sure. It can't really take a full job. Someone needs to operate the machine as well. All jokes aside, which is kind of true to think about it. But the act or the human touch, especially through the magnified lenses of podcasting and social media and internet marketing and all those kind of things, I don't think we'll really ever truly be able to be replaced. Like, we're not entertained by robots, we're just fascinated by what they can do. You can't really ever touch a soul the same way that you can get an answer from Google. They're kind of two different things. So I don't think the precedent AI push into the social verse or podcasting world um, will ultimately take away from like that audience, viewer, perspective, community building, dynamic relationship, forward moving, thinking, free minded way of life. Although technology will 100% shape it over and over and over again. It's just amazing to think back, like at the beginning of the podcast, at the first episode when I was sharing. It's just amazing to think back, like at the beginning of the podcast, at the first episode when I was sharing, like the early, my early childhood. We had recorders that were bigger than laptops, so it took a video, like a full video cassette, to record. I don't know, 6 to 8 hours if you were lucky, of really like crappy quality video that you would then have to go like way out of your way to set up and plug in and like sit by to listen to. Like, we didn't really have any of these gizmos and gadgets or apps and applications. Podcasting for me was something that I admittingly put on a pedestal, or thought that it would be more difficult for me to start. Now, granted, it's a craft and it's a sport just like any other, but I made it. I wanted to be, and I'm kind of glad I did, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. Like, I wanted to be a little more equipped and flexible and better as a host and a better communicator and navigator through a lengthy audio clip, which I've never really gotten to experience before. Like I said, I started on Instagram Reels with like 15-second videos. So I couldn't really talk long enough to really say my name. But the jump to podcasting is exponentially easier to make it more fun. And that's really what I'm excited about. And I think that's something that's going to continue to keep me excited and make these episodes better and clearer and more impactful. And some of the other aspects of everything in between for me, my life, and my business would definitely be my outside relationships. So I've gotten to learn a lot from various sources of professions out there, through meetings and networkings, and I really never got to experience anything like it, that ultimately changed the way I looked at holding relationships and maintaining relationships, or maintaining, communicating, connecting, and all that. And it had a real big impact on me in my personal life too, where I just kind of touch base with my family a little more. I kind of just try to hold the relationships that I'm making a little closer, even if they're not big important relationships maybe, or people that I necessarily maybe not I'm going to use like the word comfortable and uncomfortable, I guess, in a personal sense. I'm not shy and I'm not outgoing. I guess I can swing depending on like my own comfortability as a Scorpio and all that internal jazz and music. So I'm not necessarily shy. I'm a confident person where I can go up to someone and say hi. I don't get shy. If if I make it more difficult, then yeah, it will be more difficult. But I guess more lately, I've been extending my hand to attempt or hold and build relationships with people that I may not normally have felt comfortable reaching out or extending that, or even if it's like a short conversation with someone at a convenience store on one day a week. By week three, he's sharing inside jokes. So the psychology and learning all the stuff with work and shaping it into family and fun and staying healthy and driving it in the middle of the internet with my audience and community and exploring that outward in my mind looks so cartoonishly funny that I guess only I would enjoy it, or another content creator that probably did the exact same thing to a degree would be able to take something away for it. But it's like I went into the internet. It's just bizarre being on the other side of the screen without rambling on. It's a privilege and honor and a double-edged sword at the same time, as I've shared before, right? So it's a craft I definitely want to continue shaping and forming these kind of episodes in a structured, uncivilized, uncut, raw, unrehearsed way, and just mental trained thought of things. And time chunks are a big thing with me. And like what I did for the social end of my business, which would probably give a lot of value to small businesses looking to create content for themselves, is I just used time chunks in real time and related what was actually happening to me in my world, which I let my audience into, that they got more and more used to through social and content and written, that I was able to kind of navigate that perspective into relatable real events or real situations that are really happening. And that's a giant way to keep like your branding and your content relevant, because they're you're not really just always giving the same old. You're changing it up and you're touching people to think more about the now. And that's a real important factor in some of my social content in the future and the now, kind of letting go of tomorrow, forgetting about that last bad thing, especially with this day and age. It, if you, with the content being so available and the access to the world being so remarkably easy, um, and simplified, that people can really start amazing businesses just teaching other people how to use them behind them. And every one of these apps is its own universe for certain. I get lost through the settings sometimes. I'll go even WordPress. Those videos are just the amount of time that I've consumed videos on how to learn how to do these things is a lot. And I credit a lot of it to YouTube. I did in my first YouTube series as well. Basically started trying to assemble my creative business model for the first time using like simple sales funnel techniques and things that I was piecing together from YouTube. I was taking courses and I was taking classes, and I actually had two mentorship programs. But YouTube was something that I was just always drawn to it, and I was always um, in my mind going to use YouTube no matter what, whether I took a course or not. That was just kind of where I went for my information. So that was really fun. The other thing that's really fun for me now is being able to be so versatile on the camera with the video podcasts and other kind of content, that it's giving me really cool, new, unique, like other kind of creative concepts of things that I can do in the future through podcasting. But I don't want to spoil them. But things are looking good for my viewers. Basically, I'll try to make this more and more entertaining and valuable as I go. The other things that are what I would consider everything in between me, my life, my business, outside of everything that I have touched base on, is the location for sure. Just being in like the Salem area in such a small town gives me a real advantage in a visible sense with the nature of my kind of business as opposed to being in the major city, which I've shared in prior content. I think I mentioned that in my first YouTube series as well, where the visibility factor online is just an incredibly difficult thing that it ended up being a lot easier for me to stick out in such a small, quieter town that's less congested with businesses of my type. They are around though, but I just try to stay on that competitive edge that I talked about in prior videos and stay true to myself and compete in the best way I can for my business, so like my life and my family, and to see it flourish and to see it prosper. So another creative element of the versatility is the fun competitive ideas being so comfortable that I can do with my branding, like I talked about before, with like kind of the guerrilla creative marketing warfare, kind of getting that brand image, logo, product, or service in front of the right eyes or the right event at the right time, and being able to explore and bolt for what you need done, because that's ultimately a game inside of a game that takes true mastery of the game itself that I try to emulate, but it's just not there yet. But it's really looping the perception of or playing the game on itself. And that's just always really cool. I like people who can kind of beat the system like that, poke, laugh, um, make it something with humility and share it. I've had a few of those situations too on my journey where I made a meme post that went semi-viral for the time frame that it was in, where I posted my or I didn't graduate from Harvard, but my first employee did, and I just wrote Mark, like a black quote card with white letters and bold letters. Of course, I was virtually unknown, and I really didn't put out too much other than I had a business. So it went semi-viral, and it got, gets people thinking, oh, this guy must have loads of money, or he's working big time with Harvard. And the truth was, I played it on its head, and I explored that in later content. Like a year later, I came up with the duplicate post on Instagram, and I talked about it. But I got a headline out of it. I played it on its head, where I actually was working in a restaurant part time, exploring this thing that I was talking about in the digital world before I made it a full time thing. When I was setting up the paperwork for everything with the patent around it, I was talking about it with someone else that I worked with at the restaurant. And a girl that worked at the restaurant as a waitress had said she was taking night classes at Harvard a few days ago to us. So I asked her if I could pay her a few, like $100 or so, to help me with the initial setting up of the business or getting the paperwork done. She said, sure. And I said, do you mind if I said that I was doing this completely for a post? She, like, she laughed and said, what do you mean? I said, I just want to be able to post and say that my first employee was from Harvard. She's like, oh, I like that. That's a clever idea. So I kind of just left it at that. And then a year later, I did a post with me laughing, pointing at that last post, talking about how strong optics and perception are in society. Now, of course, I wasn't doing anything wrong, and I didn't feel guilty for posting that. That's not misleading. But it's that kind of, you know, jagged edged sword where you're leaning the machine on its head to work for you. Kind of like when nutty sports fans jump out in the middle of like a sporting event and run from one side of the football field to the other, try to evade the tackle, some sort of website or something spray painted on their head. Kind of guerrilla marketing tactic without doing anything like that. But getting your attention from a sustainable source without reaching or burning out too hard for it. You can see plenty of other people in our lifetime have figured out really simple ways to make the internet or social media work for them in that way, where they're really not able to be emulated. They're good at what they do. That's their thing. They're known for doing that thing over and over. No one can really take it away from them, and that's expected of them. And they ended up making it really, for the most part, really simple or easier for them, down to a refined product, right? Like a repeatable product. And that's kind of the fun part about creating digital assets and putting yourself out there, and it's for you, offered to them in a way that builds something for you in a really confident way out loud in front of the world, in a confident stand of ownership, accountability, and potentially expertise or authority in what you're actually standing on and what you're doing. Building platforms is fun too if you can do it in that way, where I just stayed on a topic with a logo and an animated character over the years. I didn't actually just find that one easy simple thing yet, but a gift of that or a blessing is that are viewers like you or people like you that will tune in, because I was that versatile, human, polarizing, bold speaker in social over the course of years, without that thing. So I mean, it's kind of a catch and a miss. You can't hit them all. You can't win them all. But it's essentially like saying the stuff that I can do, other people can't quite do it like it, even if what they're doing is better or different. This is the way I do what I do, which is cool being versatile because you can change, flex, and of course that's more valuable depending on how you look at it. Like I look at it as it's all career, so it's each lesson or experience alone is valuable, but the versatility and the comfortability, I can't put a price on it. And I feel good after these shows. Like I genuinely feel like I was able to get my voice out into the loudest avenue or magnitude, which I guess coming up through the creator economy, we all really struggle, and hope for. So hopefully this empowers people that maybe are just doing written content, or maybe that haven't shown their face yet, or maybe they're struggling with consistency. Try video podcasting and just try putting yourself out there more in video and speaking your truth is what I like to say, right? It's like a sword. You speak your truth, boom, it's there, right? It's inarguable, becomes. And hopefully it's authentic so that you can do something amazing for it. And you deserve it, and you have to tell yourself you deserve it. So some of the other avenues of everything in between is essentially just that never satisfied craving of lust for wanting to learn more about this thing called the internet and getting into the spotlight and attention driven market. It's just a fascinating thing to be able to know what I know now and help other people with it, or be able to get in front of people, or even like a post now or video watch of people that I normally would not have been able to get in front of or get a minute of their time otherwise. So it's a real, it's an unbelievable eye opener, I think, on any level. From small Instagram page to website or video podcast, they're all amazing avenues and opportunities to just be able to take things that we want and do things with them. And if you can get past the fear of like criticism and rejection and being perfect, I promise it's a leap of, it's like glass. It's really not there, but it's there. It's just, it doesn't exist. It's fear. And fear lies. Fear lies to us all, and it's going to try to lie to us every day. So we're going to feed ourselves those louder, inner, bolder voices of sturdy, consistent, unpressurized, unadulterated, bold sense of human symbolism. Like you are the person you are saying you are, and you're just consistently radiating, and that is your symbol, and those are your words, and it's really tough to beat. Some of the other aspects of everything in between my life and business would be the impact that I could see it happening on to the community on a wider scale, for sure. Like I was able to donate my hair 3 times to charities by growing it out on social media, so I looked like a mess having like long 8 to 10 inch hair, and oh boy, the trolls weren't too nice, biting my ankles. but I was able to reach out to, more established, credible professional settings like that and touch lives essentially, and just do it in a magnified way that felt right to my story, which I've shared about, like losing my mother throughout the journey. That definitely played an impact. So it was fun to be able to do that, and it's something that you really can't take lightly too, because it's a giant portion of the creator economy and the lens of social, and what makes it so magnifying and glamorous. Hopefully that I enlighten my audience, like in a real way, where I show you some of the real work and the trials and tribulations, not to steer you away from it, but potentially, yeah, if you thought it was going to be an amazing thing and I steered you away from it and you consider that a save of your time, then I'd be okay with that. But it's definitely meant more to encourage you in a real perspective, like that. It's work. It's a lot of work, just like any other job in any other profession. But it's exciting at the same time because it's so digitized and freeing, depending on how you use it, depending on how you look at it. But you can help a lot of people with something simple that means a lot to you, and then it'll just continue to mean more and more to other people, as long as you stay into that rhythm. And I know as a personal brand or a creator and a human, it's hard. So we go into like personal branding and content creation to kind of stay sane and do it too. But it's a vehicle for an avenue or an opportunity or stream of opportunities, hopefully, right, that you can find in the digital world to connect and meet people. More aspects of everything in between my life and business would be the distraction factor. I'm equally both less distracted by the internet, social, and things that are not really creating me a sense of purpose, but also more distracting is like the social and the internet and the wires and the strings that we pulled to make it happen itself. So it's a very, very interesting thing that, I started off in prior episodes saying that I teach entrepreneurs to be selfish and greedy, because you almost have to be blind and wide open at the same time with your eyes. Walk with your eyes bright and down, in a sense. It's like you have to really, maybe you have like a social media manager, or you're on like a more strict usage diet like I give myself, where I just really try not to absorb it, to keep that originality and that noticeable energy drain that these tech devices give us, that we fight to make it happen. But it's a very draining thing. The other aspect of everything in between my life and business, food. Food played a giant role. I love food. I love eating. I'm a big fan of eating, not so much cooking. I can cook a little bit, but I can eat better. And I grew up in Boston in the North End, so I love Italian food. I love good food. You can't fool me with the bad stuff. But I like a lot of junk food too, a lot of dive restaurant places. I'm really cut. I stay fit, but I like eating food a lot. And I noticed that the opportunities that arisen with attention and monetary avenues and pursuits of hobbies and Instagram pages and things of that nature, where I created a variant called Boston's Foodgram, just an Instagram page. Really haven't done much with it yet, but all the places that I've been going to eat, I've been capturing and creating content for, and hopefully I can twist into a brand and give some of the local businesses and eateries that I eat at and that I enjoy more attention, which could ultimately lead me into enjoying more food. So I've been eating out a lot. I've been going out to places like I shared earlier in the episode, just getting myself more into that entrepreneurship attitude through loneliness and breaking all that stuff. Now I'll go to like a whole movie alone. I'll go out to eat alone. I'll try like a new restaurant that just came out without asking anyone if they want to come with me sometimes. And it's not always the most enjoyable, but I like the rhythm. I like the rhythm. I like that ability me far in the last 6 years that if I didn't quite have the gutso to kind of get up and run when it was not looking bright, it would have never got any better. And I kind of just try to stay into a positive workflow like that where I'm not putting on too much and I'm cutting off the pressures and alleviating the stresses, and I'm even cutting back on the workload, but I'm able to like kind of crank up the hours in a more healthy, consistent, cathartic way for sure. Especially with the different mediums of communication, like a full podcast episode is a lot more meaningful, valuable, and usable to me than anything on the shorter form apps I could have ever did, really. So another aspect of everything in between is location. Because I've been getting out more and doing that whole thing for me, I've been just traveling a little more past my, I don't know, like the typical places that I go. I kind of just push myself out there a little more. I'll go to eateries in like New Hampshire sometimes, or like another state over if they're having like a nice big prime rib night or something, like an event. Um, so the food and going to locations and getting myself out there all really helped me be able to find more of a joy with being able to connect with my audience and put out content rather than feel like it's a block, because I do really enjoy it. I just don't like the stresses and all the stuff around it. If these things could edit and post themselves, oh, I would just sit here and post, talk. So another aspect of everything in between my life and my business would be entertainment, video games, kind of all blending back into like this NFT centralized idea of how I'm going to run my business with the logos. Um, Getting more comfortable on camera is always good for me anyway. So just being able to relax like this and put up my legs, I've been able to enjoy movies on my free time that I haven't been able to watch lately, and catch up with some shows that I haven't been able to keep up with lately, and just kind of zone out and get into a artistic, creative vibe of absorbing. I've been listening to a lot of music. That's definitely an in between for me. So something that I did on Spotify, you are more than welcome to check it out. On Mark DellaPenna Jr., I created a playlist called The Beginning. And for this entire time frame and pieces of the episodes and story and everything that I've done in prior content, including the content itself, I've put songs into it, music. So I created a playlist with hours and hours and hours of all the music I've listened to, things that motivate me, or songs that I've played in videos and stuff on social that you can go check out and hopefully find some motivation and inspiration. I'd like to believe that I have great music taste, so if you agree with me and you check it out, let me know. And I was going to also duplicate that playlist onto Digital Business Traffic's own playlist as well, so that it's kind of a part of our brand story and business history, and you sharing it with us as listeners into our new ex exponential into the video podcasting world, which I'm very excited to share. So something else that's everything in between me, my life, and my business. Hmm. They are getting more and more tangled, especially as the episode follows through. I'm trying to think if there's anything really else between it. Shopping for things that I just never thought I'd shop before, I guess. Office supplies and keeping up with just corny adult parts of life that are going to happen to us all. Um, just experiencing a lot of fun, boring moments as well, or calls and meetings. That's everything in between. My outfit plays a role, everything in between. Now that I do like merch drops and social outfits, it's really easy for me to navigate video to content, or if I want to go out and film something, I don't really have to really think about it. I have kind of like a uniform, if you will, which I believe in years to come, like, if I have employees or people that are um, enjoying that kind of atmosphere, they could potentially have their own and do their own stuff. Which, by the way, you guys are more than welcome to check out my merch at markdelapennajr.com. I have 8 pieces. I'm wearing them now and in every piece of content. And some of them have a lot of meaning to me and my journey in particular, including my blue historical pajamas, which I was wearing blue pajamas when I made history on the internet with. And I use that as a persona character joke to motivate other people that you don't need fancy suits, you don't need money. You just need a cell phone and an idea. You have to push and fight like hell. That's just the truth. Some of the other aspects of everything in between me, my life, and my business are the type of material that I consume for advice or motivation. It's definitely changed. So I'll listen in and check in to a lot more now of mindful material, or the books that I pick up usually now have like a set point of mindfulness or positive takeaway that just incorporating into my life. Or I just think that the small acts of it create a better life down the road for you, or at least you are now able to bring that into the lives or worlds of other people that may or may not have been enlightened with that potential book or podcast that motivated you or taught you how to do something. So limited consumption, overall strict diet on content and internet and entertainment use. I pretty much just don't absorb mainstream media outside of the bare necessities. I don't find it motivating. I think it's more paid drama than um, like a Netflix channel could be at times. So I really find peace at just finding that creative element in my brain that I've shared about before and just falling right into it, pouring something out like this podcast episode, or I'm adding some different pages onto my startup business page for like digital art and just some of the other artistic creative avenues that I can explore with creating my bin and building a social presence, and then be able to put them on my website for other people to check out and enjoy. Just small simple things to accumulate traffic and give it a real sense of community. Of course, I also have like a checklist of videos and really energized kind of feel stuff, like stuff that will give you kind of like a real strong desire to stay on the website or check them out. So I have to kind of put up that kind of themed, branded content. Um, so I'm getting more and more excited about it, styling everything, sizing everything. And something else that is everything in between myself, my life, and my business would be the desire to learn, the desire to continue, um, exercising that right that we all have, I guess, in our own life. That reason to get up when you get pushed down, I think it's just something that I want to continue to invest into and stack so high that I'm already halfway there without knowing it. And I think that's just a lot of how finding success works in a way that doesn't pressurize you or burn you out. Where, a lot of it is true. Where when you're mining for like a diamond in a rock, it's often like a centimeter or two away before you give up, cave in because it was just too hard. It was just too much rock in between you and the diamond. So you kind of got to dig and be that diamond in the rough and cut your own path if you want to explore sticking out and being different. reaching for the stars and encouraging other people to do the same, right? Internally by exercising and just manifesting that internal energy, that solidified stream, making it a fountain, flourishing, adding the necessary ingredients and care to continue letting that cycle, and then you go out and then you can help other people do the same. But you have to be selfish and greedy and help yourself first. Flush your mantra in your mind with good things and wash that subconscious that I shared about in the last episode with positive reaffirmated thoughts, and visualize it. Trick yourself into believing that you can do it until you're your own biggest fan, until you are incredibly proud of yourself that you can't be any more proud. And I hope that other people out there are striving for the same in their craft or their avenue and their journey, and pushing that belief system or that limit into maybe just one more call, one more meeting. Maybe it's just one more day at the gym, a few more reps instead of calling it quit. Whatever it is, we're all doing it for ourselves and for other people behind us. So just continue that fight. Stay true to that hustle. Stay true to that focus, that activity that kept you so into it that you got as far as you did with it. And I think looking back from where you started at something to where you're at with it now is the type of stuff that's really going to help you build that solid foundation for that fountain of flourishing and all that. That just comes with time, repetition, and a lot of failure, a lot of mistakes, a lot of learning from them, picking yourself up and putting yourself back together. So another part of everything in between myself, my life, and my business would just be the excited Christmas gift checking, like exploration now of finding out the things that I thought now, or the limits that I thought I had now, and how different they are in a year from now, or visually as well, like consuming that video and stuff. I think it's fun for me to consume as a content creator now, going back and listening to some of the old content or the updates of what I was up to, and it just warps and drastically jumps. So internally a lot, especially the desire to continue on such a difficult, hard road is a true need to see that through one way or another. And I feel that with my business and my brand, and I resonate with that a lot. Like, I wouldn't feel comfortable with myself without seeing this thing through, win or lose. It's like it was such a I need this to come into life kind of operated project, that it's just fun putting out the fires and um, repairing bridges when needed, to see it happen and being able to translate and transport something through a vehicle like the internet into a part of our life with pieces of us, and make it personal and unique in this kind of customized fashion that we are able to through things like the creator economy and podcasting. I think is something that should not be overlooked, for sure. It's just never ending, motivating, and powerful. Um, so something else that represents everything in between me, my life, and my business would be the way I see time. Time's a funny thing, because as we get more and more invested into our projects, or more and more dedicated about our hobbies, or more and more passionate about our pursuits, our time becomes limited. And what we do for work is essentially some of the most time consuming material or percentage of as a whole that will occupy near close to the majority of your life. Sometimes you will spend more time working with those around you or with the people that mean the most to you or the places that you really want to be. And what I found a giant motivating factor and when I left the 9 to 5 and I joined in the creator economy and I traded in like suits for a pair of pajamas and headphones and a beanie was the pursuit or that struggle to climb up the ladder was gone. Like I'm just gonna cross the street and build my own ladder. Like I just don't want in this competition, this drive, this rat race, this cycle, this vicious achieving advantage and you know growth of machine-like structure anymore. I just kind of want to find peace and build my own, and that's just incredibly difficult to be able to actually do. And I'm really glad that I was able to do it. And I'm still glad that I'm able to fight these battles and these wars to make it happen every single day and be able to take my audience and viewers through it with me to become more equipped for your own lives or your own pursuits that could potentially navigate or adjust your own ship's sails for better seas. Um, Mistakes and errors and insights or things that I've tried in the past or connected experience and relatable um, outcomes and stuff to that nature. So some of the other stuff that I would include in everything in between myself, my life, and my business would be strangely enough, less of a need to talk. I like talking. It's in my nature. I can talk and talk and talk and talk, and I like it. Like especially as a podcast host and a social creative, I have to talk. But I have found true power and almost beauty in the ability to talk so much in one avenue or in one communicated stream that is essentially building something for me in my life, but reserving the right to save my voice and not give my time to people that just don't deserve it or that don't reciprocate that same energy that I didn't feel like I guess before I went into business or went into like this kind of competitive visual arena, I didn't think that I would be someone capable of saying like they don't I would you could say it kind of just to say it or out of spite or as a joke or as a fleeting thought or to pass an expression off to someone else, but to actually say and mean, not everyone deserves my time. And learning that that's not a bad thing, that's like a necessity, is really amazing because now you're able to like kind of find your own place and your own surroundings and hopefully manifest that energy, that those inner beliefs, and explore them without hands coming to cover over your mouth, so to speak, or someone to come put your hand down and tell you you shouldn't live your life that way, you shouldn't explore your imagination that way, or whatever it is. I'm a real firm believer in like the power of the creative mind in numbers as well, and that's also something that I would like to include in this episode. With everything in between my life, myself, and my business would be my online community as a whole. I think is a potent power that I've yet to tap into its full potential or see thrive or bring the resources necessary to make happen or attract enough people to, and the list goes on. But just a collective pool of like minds in an accessible format to be able to voice platforms and share them back and forth and coordinate that or challenge the opinions or beliefs of something to bring more value to the pool of people interested or even in an enlightened way, I think is really powerful as a speaker or as a present online being or someone that's visible or growing more visibility or wants to be more visible is um, you know the feeling of invincibleness on my mission, the sense of human in my own life through like just body parts and harm happening and going through obstacle after obstacle, but also this like humbling spearhead, um, intentive manner or mind, I guess, of saying like, yeah, I could do a Twitter space and we can talk about why you disagree and let the audience take something away from that. I guess as a stage of visibility, attention, community, and audience building that I would not have been able to just jump into and explore years ago when I started, which is why a lot of what we do in the skill set is invisible. It's a stair set. Like we're creating um, more than what they see, more in a, not in a bragging sense. And I think that would make sense to someone building an audience for themselves, or even like a musician or a rapper. You're keeping that show going. You're leaning into things, and you're making it entertaining, fun, and enjoyable, and really owning yourself. I think that's what that's really the only difference between like celebrityism and rookie amateur content creator is the rookie amateur content creator does not yet believe in the value of those scrappy 15-second mistake videos that are still on his Instagram, or those error videos with the oohs and ums, or that time they dropped something on video and made a mess, until later when they don't care about it anymore and now it's just something funny. It's more of like the idea that, well, a celebrity would know that they just bring a serious amount of high value to something with a certain amount of attention, that they're very careful about what they touch, what they talk about, what they interact with, who they associate with. Sometimes their voice, and especially like in the music industry and stuff, like their image is hugely important, like their presence is hugely important. It's a part of product, and it's very societal, right? And it can be draining, and it can give people false impressions or ideas um about you, and I think that's something that I'm sure I'll come to explore as a podcast host, getting more into the digital world. But through using your voice is dangerous because people will talk about you, which is going to happen. But the strength in using your voice, I believe, is that, well, they would have known, they would have done that anyway. They would have talked about me anyway. But now at least I have a voice that I can talk and speak for myself. And I think, or I truly believe, with like my line of work in business, and not just for like a catchy one liner, the more and more we go into the future, the more and more you're going to actually have to learn how to speak up for yourself in a magnetized global fashion to navigate efficiently, I believe. So it's almost like technology, this jump of technology may not just have, you might not have a choice for that. Like you don't have to necessarily go learn all the configurations of the Facebook page or the YouTube channel, but you might have to learn how to navigate with your face and your voice, moving forward, not just for brands, but just for life. Like it's a very digital world now with Zooms and um, more organized video class discussions and orchestrated events. But the opportunities to take something digital and blend it with stuff you like is grab and go at this point, which makes content production interesting and frustrating at the same time, because they don't want to sit there all day. They want to grab it and go. So you have to package it more in a fast, speedy way, like a grab and a go way. Um, but the long-term benefits of a community around a grab and go gives them reasons to come back, or gives them like a sense of security or safeness with those grab and goes to begin with. And if you just kind of look at that and think like any sport, like a coach or like someone on a board mapping out like their next play, you can you're given abilities and like these insanely crazy powerful avenues just through wire, string, and connecting. Wire, string, and connecting. You don't have to be good at any of it anymore, which is amazing and both competitive at the same time because it'll be harder for those that are not at that peak level or that ready for that attention level to really stick out in the bottom degree of visibility, if you will, in the market overall. But it also gives the ones that are really producing at high volumes with organic content strategies and thousands and thousands of dollars in revenue to run it, gives them more flexibility into um, communicating more efficiently and effectively too. Like the whole thing evolves around the evolution itself, and I'm sure that we're not done yet. Like there's no way we're done yet. We're already seeing an emergence of some rebellious like social media platforms or places on the internet where people feel that they should do this to arm themselves or the masses in goodwill for the freedom of speech moving forward. And we've seen this with like Truth Social. We've seen this with Twitter and Elon's purchase. And we're even seeing this with like Kick, which is a new platform that content creators can be a little more flexible with, a little more themselves under their kind of control with more rights and abilities and benefits. So we're really seeing an emergence and an awareness, like I mentioned in one of my last episodes, a total awareness of the freedom of speech at least being impacted or near nudged to the capabilities of technology over people's abilities in a controllable sense. So it's really interesting and disturbing at the same time to see some of the big technological conglomerates that we use every day on their platforms and their apps impact the things that shape our core values, especially as a nation. Something like the freedom of speech, and then you sprinkle in the new technological deep fakes and AIs, security risks, and things to that nature. Um, so yeah, content's a huge, of course, huge part of my life. It's definitely also a huge part of everything in between, as essentially the thing that separates between me right now, or I guess I could say the thing that separates my soul in their souls is this glass in the four corners and image that I chose to represent that communicated message with. So it's a rhythm, it's like a sport. Playing is winning, right? It's kind of interesting that just the more you play, the more you win. Overall, winning, like as it not being an objective or a tangible object, but rather just the dribbling of the actual basketball, the forming of content, and the creation itself gives you insight, experience, relationships, knowledge, gives you abilities to have conversations like this and share more information with it. And yeah, the information highway is definitely not what it used to be. It's very sparkly and it's easy to find reasons to follow the next shiny object, which is a giant distractor of people in their pursuit of content creation. Because just remember, content creation is not a race, it's a marathon. People that stay in content are consistent. They grow and they get places because they're consistent. But the marathon of it will only drain them, as I've shared before. I've gone through creative burnout or, went a little too hard in one area of my business with content where you're fighting yourself and you just stop fighting the machine. Ease back, right? With the let your energy manifest, get healthier, and then radiate that. And that'll just be more powerful alone than the real hard climb up the mountain. Sometimes it's better to stop and look for an easier path, right? The easiest path, or not the easiest path will never get you where you want to be, online or in life. But the path of least resistance will, or a shortcut online will. Of course, if there's an app for it, you get the app. You don't go the harder route. but it's still hard work. And it, if it's easy for you, or if it was that easy for you to get, that's more competitive to get it in the long sense, because now everybody can get it that easy. You see? So you always have to kind of um, remember that, like, someone is working for the seat that you're sitting in, and they might deserve it more, and only time's going to tell. You have to really put the work in. Another aspect of everything in between myself, my life, and my business would be my attitude, I guess, really changes for the better as I've shared day by day, or just episode, and being able to reach more people, especially as a podcast host. I don't feel like on edge anymore, really, where I'm fighting to get my voice out. It's scheduled time that I can relate that message to. So my attitude has definitely changed for the better, for a more healthy, optimistic side of me, that really wants more for myself, and I'm okay with saying that out loud. And I think that's like a big strength. I think a lot of people can't really tell themselves out loud, like, hey, I deserve success, or I want to be successful, without feeling weird, or without feeling like that's bragging. But in the right format, of course, and in the right terms, it's not. And getting someone on that ledge to kind of put their arms up or their hands up and reach for it, so like, I deserve this, is powerful. Um, Introverted or extroverted, you should be able to wake up every day and raise your hands above your head, reach for the sky or the sun as it's coming up, and just tell yourself in that stretch that you're deserving it today, you're reaching for it today, you're going to go get it today. So that when you get back to that spot and you put your head down, next objective, next day, you got that. What's the next thing? Bang. And you're just going to start doing more and more for yourself in a rhythm that's healthy and right for you. Content definitely teaches you how to adjust your attitude when you realize the awareness levels of just the global magnification, the audience reach, the potential it has for you and for them, and the energy and the passion that you're bringing into it with the value of the work and the intention. So that's definitely a huge part of what shaped my attitude, was the perspective of content on both sides of the screen as well. Just looking back at prior incidents or how I've handled other things, and just like a sense of calmness and guided direction, that the time that I'm investing into myself digitally is ultimately what I want it to be. Staying true to myself and being okay with that is assertive. It really shaped my attitude in a positive way, for sure. Hmm. Something else that is everything in between myself, my life, and my business would be the time that I spend making decisions about anything has gone down dramatically just from being in business. So if I go out to eat, I won't really take long. I'll just find something I like, I pick it. Kind of got like business minded through just repetitive training and doing it every day in regular life. Supermarket won't even take too much time. Just put it in there. That one looks good. Just put it in there. Or decisions on the phone, or things I think that used to cost me time or money or even energy in the past, or things now that I know to evade or hop on, or how to cut that bridge down. So time management in relaxing and giving myself that needed space between creating my own lane and giving myself my own edge is really beneficial, I think, for my trek forward as a podcast host, as a content creator in business online. Something else that is everything in between myself, my life, and my business would be the desire to meet more people has never been so bigger. Um, I know I want to meet more people. I want to meet like-minded people. I think we can do some really cool stuff online or in videos, collaborated projects together, or in business projects together. But it's on an agenda now where I do things intentionally to like ensure that I'm meeting new people every week, in online, offline. It's a it's a necessity for building like kind of like the long term healthy creative community that I would like there to be. That could potentially outlive the business or outlive me. And be able to have a space for other people to go to for that kind of environment or that kind of helpful atmosphere within the internet, I believe will ultimately be really valuable and just kind of radiate by itself. Because if you have a large group of creative minded people on the same mission or on similar missions that are all kind of helping themselves through the same kind of mutual resources and information pool, they meet, they talk, they look out for each other, they provide more to the community, they'll suggest things, and it can grow. It's a business. It's so crazy to be in these times right now with creative business ideas and to know about it because you can take marbles and sand and make empires with something that meant something to you in the third grade nowadays without much thought, without much money. Um, so you really can't have any excuses for yourself or empathy for people that tell themselves they want to try but aren't. You can do things like this, like videos, and try to help them motivate. But there's no excuses. There's crazy opportunities online. I can't say that about every industry. I can't say that about every facet of life, and I can't say that it's um, an equal one either, because it's a battle. It's personal. It's self belief. It's a jillion other factors, but it's all possible online for sure. And I think the internet is just undefeated, and the internet the internet is somewhere that I suggest people try to bring creative ideas or avenues to pursue more of that for sure. Another thing that would be considered everything in between myself, my life, and my business would be my vision. So I don't look at the screens as much as I usually do or used to. With just awareness that like it's not good for your eyes over and over. Being a lot more health aware now of the dangers involved with like the dopamine levels spiking as you use your socials and your internet. Your eyes wear down, the drainingness of the plugs and the wires. If you start trailing into mental thought about like the amount of opinions and situations and things like that, um, that's definitely helpful to continue to stay aware of, especially as a continued visible content creator. Like the health awareness is not a joke. Mental health is not a joke. These devices can do a plenty good and a plenty bad. It's all how you use it. It's all how you treat it, and it's knowing that it's a tool with very powerful, pros and cons, and you kind of exercise how to use the tool to get the job done rather than let social media leverage you or leveraging social media. So that is definitely a big one. I've been eating better because of it, just staying more offline in an organic sense until I need to go online. It's kind of doing this combination of combining work life balance with work and life, but separating it at the same time in that surgical, cerebral, safe, you know, way that I've been trying to explain throughout these episodes in a way that my listeners can navigate or resonate with. Something else that's everything in between myself, my life, and my business would be hmm, writing. I've been writing an awful lot more now than I ever have prior, which I'm really happy about. It just kind of put me back into an old passion of mine where I just used to really like writing. I found a lot of inner calmness and healing through writing, and I can kind of keep it and reuse it for things later, or at least just feel a sense of, gosh, it must just be a creator thing. But that kind of build your own mantra with assorted material or things or possessions that mean things to you, that kind of radiate that energy and give you that setting that I was talking about. That controlling your environment is really important. That's something that's really, really important for me. I really like controlling the environment, not so much the room with other people, but the environment. I like a nice calming environment when I want calm. I want a nice crazy environment when I want crazy. I like to control the actual environment. Um, and Something else that is everything in between myself, my life, and my business is definitely a sense of being empathic. Um, I pick up a lot on other people's energy. I absorb energy a lot more than I wish to sometimes. If I'm like in a room with a certain type of energy or a real stagnant vibration, it'll kind of stick onto me. Or, if I'm in line with the bank, as an example, and someone's kind of huffing and puffing about their day, I'll kind of start to feel a little iffy about mine. So it's nice to be able to be self-employed and separate myself from the rest of the world and do these podcast videos and have my own office. And really, the sticking out on social did a lot for me in terms of just finding peace with myself. And like, it's a strange thing. Like, you're just putting yourself out there, and it seems like very typical, insignificant, boring things, but that's kind of what makes us who we are, in a sense of um, how we root our origins or our belief systems to begin with. So if you found like a rock at a meaningful point in your life, like at a really big day that sticks out that you'll never forget, and you keep that rock somewhere, to everyone else, it's just a rock. But to you, stories come to mind, and you could go on and on about that rock. And that's kind of the creator economy, or a sense of original concept that I tried to bring into the to my channels through content and everything, with like objects that meant things to me, memories, and situations, experiences, insights, and see how that would play out into the creative aspect of business and monetizing a channel for communicating with an audience. Another element of something that I would consider everything in between myself, my life, and my business would be fashion. I've definitely been able to explore a broader sense, I think, of fashion and design now through creating content. And some of it's been working, like, or some of the clients that I've been working for, and just what the capabilities that I could see, technology and digital uh, NFT monetization and things like that with clothing and design, I think are real. It's just something that's really fascinating to me. Um, that whole digital asset road, and making things yours, authentic, and using art to do that, or something visual, and connecting the dots, I think, is where we really see content now. It's all kind of storytelling, um, flip book through art and visual, kind of grab their attention with something flashy and hold it with something valuable. Um, so it's really interesting seeing like art and fashion and design around my life now, mostly just because of people that I've worked with, or I've just never had like a particular taste or an exploration desire for fashion. I never had particularly amazing fashion. So working and kind of getting a taste, or opens up your palate to, oh wow, I never really tasted this flavor. I really never got into the idea of um, fashion at all, or I never really considered that any kind of subject that I should learn more about, which is amazing working with people that do such different things in the sense of online. Sometimes that, um, clients vary, and things happen from all around the world, but the the perspectives that I get are, it's so varied sometimes that it amazes me to this day. Um, so fashion was just something in music. I talked about music already, but like just experiencing going into a studio, like I shared in my last episode, and seeing a music studio and how they would produce music for a content creator getting bigger into the music industry, or how they would extract audio files for social content on a bigger scaled kind of project of a more organized thing. In fashion, those are two industries that I kind of just got a little peek at, that I was really interested in learning more about, and thinking of ways um, where I could see that helping my own lane, if you will, or how to include those in my lane. And with that, I guess everything, another part of everything in between myself, my life, and my business would be that culture, that bubble, that the presence that I create, that my listeners listen to, that I don't know is there, that experience that someone had through me, or can by connecting with me to someone else, or even like in a comment or something like that. Um, that's the culture. It's like me creating a culture of my own within the internet culture that I'm so fascinated with myself, or with in general. Like I'm really fascinated with the internet culture and social media world, um, happenings and all that kind of jazz. So it's interesting moving in real time and kind of seeing that it's creating like a community culture of its own in a culture. Yeah, when I talk about like getting to experience a taste or a sample sneak peek at like the music industry, at a studio, or like fashion with a client, and wrapping digital asset into clothing and brand. Um, Culture comes to mind, because it's that bubble of real life meets art, entertainment slash uh, business esque kind of pocketainment that fascinates me so much. Another aspect of everything in between myself, my life, and my business would be a lot of broken equipment and computers that I've been finding small business repair shops, and meeting incredible people of crazy ranges of talent through my many, many, many trips there, of just broken screens, or spilling water on a computer, and just working with so many gadgets and gizmos all the time. I've gotten to meet build a lot of relationships with repair shops, or people that like fix them and repair them and upgrade them for a living. And seeing some of their businesses, they're really similar to mine, where they kind of started from like a sense of beginning, and used the internet to um, reach people and do things for themselves. So it was pretty cool getting into those conversations with people that are so tech headed and gizmo addicted as I am in the social media world, and like they're fixing my stuff, and we're just having conversations, and um, it's fun talking to people that are in business for themselves, that are doing like-minded stuff, because the relatability is right there, so it's easy to have conversations with new people now. And that's really a giant part of business anyway is building relationships. So the more and more experience you get, the more and more you put yourself out there. Error, mistake, victory, win, loss. You have more to talk about. Now you have more stuff to create content about. Now you're more interesting to follow or listen to, and now you can relate to more people that are doing what you're doing. So it's really all energy. It's just moving and then creating something that can move people with it, right? Or move them with you, or bring them on your trip forward with you, or on your journey with you. Something else that is everything in between myself, my life, and my business. Hmm. The weather. I've noticed now as I'm getting older, I've grown up in Boston my entire life. I really don't like the cold. Like I never liked it, but now that I'm older, I really, really don't like the cold. The weather has been impacting me dramatically lately. Like I'm a little wheezy and stuffy right now. Um, Low tolerance for allergies and cold. So we like hot allergy-free weather around here now. The weather has been impacting me more now and noticeably changing. I don't know if, excuse me, I don't know if anyone else can really notice those kind of obvious differences now in the way that our weather is kind of scaled. But already today is April 22nd, and just this week we experienced like a winter day, a fall day, and a summer day, and a spring day in 1 week. The weather is changing dramatically. It seems like it, and my tolerance for it is not too good. Boston's weather in Massachusetts is notorious for having inconsistent weather. They say it as a joke, but if you don't like the weather, just wait a minute and it will change. But it's true. That's kind of a nutshell about the Boston weather. I leave the house with the sweatshirt, and I come back in a t-shirt with the sweatshirt on top of me. Something else that I would consider everything in between myself, my life, and my business would be gratitude for sure. Um, my gratitude is always rising now, like naturally, because now I can like actually align, or I have like a visible brand, I guess, with like brand alignment. And the more that I create, the more that people can relate. It kind of like you're actually like just naturally becoming a natural alignment more, with the goal, with like-minded people. So the gratitude is I'm able to now, like, I think of ways that I could see me potentially doing something with them, or something that they would be able to get behind or incorporated with, like other entities that do um, things like for charity, or on a scaled like community level, like community leaders. So it's good to be grateful because I can look around and feel empowered by what they're doing, and then I see room for potential, and it gives me hope. It gives me opportunity for ideas, for creative thinking, for ways. Hey, maybe I can get my brand into doing something like that, or in this lane. And that's the thing about branding online too, is you really have to like cut your own lane, and push it. Um, Something else that I would consider everything in between myself, my life, and my business. I am going to make this the final one of the episode. Hopefully, it is the best one for my listeners, audience, and viewers to be able to take something away from themselves. But one major component of everything in between myself, my life, and my business has been my soul. You can feel it more now, whole. It's like whole. just from being able to get out of the 9 to 5, go through all the misery, sit here, do what I need to do, feel productive, reach more people, make an impact, feel good about it, feel confident about it, move forward, improve, help people do the same. You can feel it grow. It radiates, and it radiates more and more every time I put myself out of my own comfort zone and just give myself different positive outlooks, and turn negative situations into positive outcomes. It's always a goal. It's always a fun way to think about something that, especially as a social creative, you can just kind of take things that mean better things to you, like things that actually like really help you stay solidified in what you're doing and in your core beliefs, and then you can kind of weigh it to some of the stuff that may have happened next to the things that don't make you feel so good. You might be able to like twist it and create something really authentic and strangely empowering with it or through it, whether or not it's known or anyone knows. Like a hat that means this, or a song, or music and art, and that's kind of like the beauty of creation itself, is we reach deep into ourselves, into our beings, into our souls, our psyches, our mantras, our lives, our personal objections, our struggles, and we like take it and put it into the world to be judged, to be ridiculed, to be loved, to be hated, to be used, right? To bring value to other people, to bring value to more people that we love, to help people that are struggling with that thing, to go through that whole chaotic up and down, the fear, the loss, the win that comes with that. That's the power of being a content creator. That's the soul power. That's the power of the soul. That's the internal beam of infinite energy and radiating what's true to you and speaking your truth into the world and carving out your own space and leading others to join it or follow along with you, right? And that's kind of a great summary of the title of the podcast that I hope you guys enjoyed, which was Everything in Between. And that's a great package series of what the premise of the show is: everything in between, my life, my business, and everything in between. And I think that was just a really good way of producing it and blocking it to give my audience a true perspective of the journey here. And we're here now. Woo! Now we can do some cool stuff and interact. And I'm going to do many, many, many more creative add-on features like Discords and more events and Twitter Spaces to get people engaged and promote my podcast and meet people and get on the messages and start Reddits and open more communication avenues. And I have forums for startups and creatives that are looking to learn more about social media content or creating a podcast for themselves, or if they like something that I'm doing for myself and they want it for them, I'd be more than glad to consult with them or discuss possible opportunities that we'd be able to bring that assistance or bring value to that road of getting to there, whether it's like better thumbnails or more optimized LinkedIn presence, or putting yourself out there and letting your voice be heard, or having people hear that roar. That's something that we offer. You guys are more than welcome to check it out at digitalbusinesstraffic.com. We are hosting 3 unique community events: the Walking Tech, the Digital Business Traffic NFT community, and Logo Wars are the 3 creative, unique community events that we are hosting at Digital Business Traffic, where we are looking and finding and searching out into the beyond to find other creators that would like to participate in either creating some of them with us to make these happen and bring these events to bigger heights and broader horizons. And we're also looking for people that want to join in our community and engage and learn about some of the stuff that we can help them with. We also have a resources page where people are more than welcome to check out for yourself. There's free step-by-step video in-depth guide throughs on how they can start Instagram businesses. There's free content size chart downloadables for every social media platform and kind of internet app you can think of, and we just keep finding and making more and more of them. There's more valuetainment. There's forums and discords and a bunch of other things happening. You guys are more than welcome to check it out and join me over there at my job where I go and do more of this kind of thing at Digital Business Traffic and on socials and stuff like that. Also, to wrap up the episode, I would again like to thank anyone that is taking the time to listen to these podcast episodes, especially for this first season. I am filming, editing, and producing and publishing them as fast as possible, back to back to back, to build one fast stream of people and do more shows like this in the future. Um, I am also up to a few other things at Digital Business Traffic. If you guys want to check them out, you're more than welcome to follow the website, and there's more information on the homepage where I'm going to try a community video and find people to film a bigger video with um, in the broad scale of things on YouTube and get people involved with that kind of type of joint creative project. And there will be more to come. So this wraps up the episode summaries that I have shared, where I said the premise of the show is like business and everything in between. So that's how I'll do the first few episodes. So that means that the next episode will be the first of its kind off the premise show. And I have decided to leave it to your imagination as a surprise. I might change up the vibe and give a little different kind of content to unload the attention and the spotlight on from the thick listening and learning that this all was, to get to know me. And I really appreciate your time. So I'm going to make the next episode a lot more entertaining and enjoyable. But I have some plans for this podcast show. I do have some plans. Anyway, I appreciate all your time. As usual, thank you so much for listening. Make history. Break.